Yo, rivals, take note. The B in boldly stands for business. After securing Raheem Sterling at a cool number, about £45 million, Chelsea have now moved on to KOULIBALY. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. SCN! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is another special edition, transfer edition of Couch Critic, where we look at the potential signing of KOULIBALY at Chelsea from a tactical perspective, of course. But y'all know what to do. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification button if you're a real bad man. And you gotta know about my sponsors. I'm sure you guys already know. They go by the name of Major League Sauce. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Please hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, on the heels of Chelsea signing Raheem Sterling, they have now turned their attention to the center back in position, and in particular, KOULIBALY. And if the rumored fee is correct, it is a peach of a deal once again, somewhere in and around the £33 million range. With KOULIBALY coming to Chelsea on the last year of his deal. And how long have Chelsea been rumored to be linked with KOULIBALY? I can go as far back as Antonio Conte in his first or second season. We were linked with him then. We then turned our attention to Maurizio Sarri came over and wanted him. And if I'm not mistaken, there was some interest or some rumored interest with Frank Lampard as well. And, you know, we finally got him. It took, what, a couple months into the Bowley regime to see this deal finally come to fruition. We're finally going to see KOULIBALY at Stamford Bridge as a Chelsea player, and I am elated about this signing, and I'm going to tell you guys why. We're going to look at the tactical benefits of having a guy like KOULIBALY into the side, and we're also going to be looking at the cons as well that may or may not deter you from, you know, wanting this guy at the club. Okay, so if you're a diehard Chelsea fan and you've been following the club for more than, 4 or 5 years, the name KOULIBALY should be right on the tip of your tongue, somebody that you're very familiar with his game. Obviously, he's been at Napoli for the majority of his career, and under Maurizio Sarri came to fruition, came to prominence in his ability to be a defender who can move the ball out from the back, usher a defense, and also be very effective in, ball playing possession and whatnot. So, it's no surprise that Thomas Tuchel has shown an interest in KOULIBALY. Even at his advanced age, or if you want to consider that 31 years old, he's a guy that is very close to being a very complete center back. When you look at his touches, he loves to move the ball forward. He's a guy that in possession is very composed. He's a guy that when you see him leap forward and get further up the pitch, he's not uncomfortable. And these are all things that we need in our center backs, guys that are very comfortable on the ball and very good at progressing it forward. And KOULIBALY definitely ticks all the boxes. But I don't even think that that's his number one attribute, his main strength. I think that the thing that you get from KOULIBALY that is, second to none is his commanding presence in the back. The guy that just, takes ownership of everything that happens inside the 18, the defensive 18, and just snuffs it out immediately. Very similar to a Virgil van Dijk in that respect as well. Just a really quiet, composed center back who just messes about, never messes about. Every time he gets into situations where he's 1v1 with an attacker, he usually wins those duels. But the thing that you get when you have defenders that are very much in possession of the football more often than where they have to defend is they have to be turned on all the time. And I feel like the concentration levels and the ability to snuff out attacks and not make mistakes when you're being asked upon or called upon to make a last-ditch tackle is what makes KOULIBALY the ideal center back choice for Chelsea. I mean, he's coming in potentially to replace Rudiger, who for us was, a man mountain, not just because, his last-ditch tackles, his pace getting forward, his ability to drive the ball forward, which are all things that I think KOULIBALY is exceptional at, but also his leadership and the intangibles that he brought to the pitch as well. And I really feel like the only real natural replacement for what you got from Rudiger is KOULIBALY. The guy is a captain of Napoli. He's if he's not a captain of Senegal, then he's definitely one of the leaders there. And I feel like his ability to really marshal and usher a back line is, second to none a lot of the times. He's a quiet center back, not a guy that's really raw, but a guy that, you put in the center of your defense and he's a commanding presence back there. So all of these things are the reasons why I think that Chelsea are going to be in love. Chelsea fans, like myself in particular, are going to be in love with having a defender like KALIDOU Koulibaly. Now, in recent years, it's important to note that the ball-carrying center back at Napoli became Mario Rui under Spalletti. And that's not because, KALIDOU Koulibaly is not very capable in possession, compose, pick passes, can angle them, cross-range passes and whatnot. It's not because you don't see KALIDOU Koulibaly executing that on a very high level. It's that, and this is in my opinion, of course, I feel that because he's also very adept at being a stopper in the back, a guy that just snuffs out all the attacks whatsoever, they relied on him in that role more so than being the ball player advanced center back role. Because I feel like in world football right now, we're finding a lot of guys that can be very good in possession, but very few that can actually hold down a defense, marshal it, and basically snuff out any of the attacking moves that, come their way. So KALIDOU Koulibaly was basically not being used in a similar role to that under Maurizio Sarri, where he was the guy that was bringing the ball up from the back. If you remember anything about how we played under Maurizio Sarri, or even how Napoli played, it was very left side centric, where, the center back in that setup, I guess it was David Luiz for us, would bring, or maybe it was Rudiger, I can't remember, but would bring the ball out. Obviously, Jorginho would collect, and we'd have our fullbacks overlap. In Napoli, it would have been Gulam, I believe his name is, but they also had Hamsik in the attacking midfield position, and of course Insigne and Mertens in the attacking roles. And very much so many of their attacking moves were built from the left-hand side, and it was KALIDOU Koulibaly that was trusted to bring the ball out and be the guy that's initiating their attacking moves, advancing it into Jorginho, who then again, of course, would do what Jorginho does, recycle possession and, work it into areas where, the attackers can be most effective. He hasn't really lost that ability. He still has the ability to, play high line defense, but also be very useful in the build-up, and also be a guy that can be the conduit, the guy that's setting up the attacking moves, a guy that can play the long balls in behind and find attackers from there, bypassing the midfield in that respect. I still think he's very effective in that role. It's just the fact that he has so many other aspects about the game that are very effective that, Spalletti found it more useful to have him as the stopper, because he's actually excellent in that role as well. When you look at his passes, very rarely gives it away. I'd say that his long range passes have dipped a bit, and that may be down to just usage. He used to be upwards in and around the 70 percentile range, and now he's in and around 60, which is not great when you consider, what you get from someone like, say, Thiago Silva, or, to a lesser extent, Rudiger, who was very good at switching play. But having said that, I don't think that it's a hindrance to his ability to be very effective on the ball for Chelsea. I think that he's still going to be able to find players, in behind the defense. He's still going to be able to be very composed, use the possession very well, recycle possession, and then when you think of even if Chelsea, don't make another signing, if you have a center back pairing of, Thiago Silva, who's unbelievably comfortable in possession, probably one of the top 5 defenders in world football right now, and then you side him next to an absolute boss in KALIDOU Koulibaly, I mean, can you think of a more perfect scenario for Chelsea going forward? I know that everyone was in and about, high on Matthijs de Ligt coming to Chelsea. He's younger, obviously. He's a guy that, was very, very good at marshalling a back line at Ajax, but not so much when he went to Juventus. And, I'm of the opinion that, maybe, KALIDOU Koulibaly's name has lost a bit of shine just because he hasn't really been the name that's been linked with every big club in world football the last couple of years, just mainly down to the fact that, De Laurentiis is not the best guy to do business with. I'm surprised we got this deal over the line, having said that, to be honest. But, he's not the best guy to work with. And after KALIDOU Koulibaly re-upped again, renegotiated his contract, it almost took him off limits. And for that reason, I feel like everyone just stopped talking about this guy and started focusing on other center backs, the next ones. And it just so happens now he hasn't renewed his deal, and Chelsea were able to negotiate a very, very, very good price for a center back who I believe is still one of the top 5 complete center backs in world football. I mean, aerially, he's not necessarily your prototype. He's not exactly winning aerial duels at the rate of a Virgil van Dijk, for instance, who gets about 4 or 5 a game. But in terms of just being a guy that is a commanding presence, like he's what, 6'4"? He's a big man, you know, and he's physical and strong as well. I think that having that presence in that back line is, you know, paramount. I mean, I don't know how many aerial duels came his way in Serie A, just because I don't feel like there was a lot of, you know, long ball this, long ball that. I feel like a lot of what we saw in Serie A was counter-attacking football, very much tactically based, and may not have been as many opportunities to win, you know, 4 or 5 aerial duels. But I think he's capable of doing it, but I just haven't seen it on display in his game at Napoli. And in order for me to give him the, you know, the green light saying he's an aerial presence, he's a guy that is going to, you know, win us 4 or 5 a game, I needed to see more of that in his game at Napoli. I haven't seen that yet. I know that when he's attacking the ball, he's effective, very strong neck muscles. And I know that carries connotation amongst Chelsea fans who watch Tammy Abraham, you know, or even like Kai Havertz for that matter. Neck muscles mean something, right? So, you know, he's a beast. When he heads the ball, it stays headed. Like he has clearances of like, you know, 20 yards when he's heading the ball because he's just so powerful. Whether or not he's meeting it, you know, enough times to utilize that strength is something I want to see more of. But in terms of just being a real presence, a real commanding presence inside your own 18, I really don't think that you're going to find many that are better. Not just like, you know, his tactical awareness, but also his technical ability. His tackling is exceptional. His ability to be a one-on-one specialist in tackling and not play a football, not surrender penalties, you know, make last-ditch tackles that are 100% accurate. And if you want evidence of that, just look at him. I'm not going to post a video, but if you want evidence of it, just look at him versus Mbappe or KOULIBALY versus Mohamed Salah. You know, in both those instances where he's playing against very tricky wingers, very tricky, you know, pacey attackers, he basically won those duels. And, you know, I really think that that's something that translates well in the Premier League for reasons that, you know, how we play. We obviously play with an extremely high line. We find our defenders in 1v1 situations a lot of the time just based on the fact that, you know, we're either caught in transition or we're pressed up so high that there's space in behind. And in those instances, of course, we have Thiago Silva, who's exceptional at like just snuffing out any danger. But when you combine him with a guy like KOULIBALY, who's also very good at it, I really do feel like we've improved our defense in a way that can't be measured in the preseason or anything. It's just going to come down to when we see them in the game and you see how they're playing off each other, reading each other, you know, liberating each other to get forward, and trusting that the fact that, like, you know, once, you know, Kalido goes forward, he knows he has Thiago Silva back there as a rock. And, you know, should Thiago Silva look to press forward, he also knows that he has KOULIBALY. Like, that sort of like dovetailing of defenders, I think, is going to be paramount to our success in the Premier League this year. Obviously, when you look at our defense as a whole right now, we're still being linked to the likes of Ake and Kimpembe as well. You throw that with the likes of Trevor Chalobah, and of course what we have in our fullback wing pass position in the likes of, you know, Ben Chilwell, and of course the Rolls Royce Reece James. You know, you're looking at a defense now that can challenge for titles. You have the makings of a strong back. And then you take in consideration a lot of the things that I look at when I'm looking at a strong defensive unit is communication. It's so important, because a lot of the times what we saw last year with Chelsea was there was a lot of communication issues in the back that just led to mistakes and errors playing out from the back and whatnot. And I feel like when you have somebody that you trust and you understand, you speak the same language, you guys are, you know, countrymen, have played together a lot, you're going to eliminate some of those errors. I just feel like there's going to be more solidity in the back line when you have somebody like KOULIBALY as well as Mendy, and then you have the experience and veteran leadership of Thiago Silva, and then you have, you know, the world-class talent of Reece James, and then of course Ben Chilwell coming back from injury as well. It's making for a very, very formidable defense. But in another area of the pitch where I think that we still need to see an acceleration in terms of like the statistical data, it's his ability to win tackles versus, you know, being dribbled past. That's obviously the measure of a truly complete boss. It's what we use to, basically crown somebody like Virgil van Dijk as one of the great defenders in world football right now. Gold standard amongst defenders in the Premier League. Rudiger, who KOULIBALY will be replacing likely, was about 65%. And if you look at his stats at Napoli, you would see that his finest year was 2 to 3 years ago, where he won 65% of his ground duels. Recently it's dipped down to 55%, and you're going into a faster league now where the wingers and the midfielders are a lot more tricky, speedy and a lot more direct. It's an area where we're going to need KALIDOU KOULIBALY to show us again that he can excel and be in that 65-67% range, where he's winning most of his duels and not getting dribbled past. Because like I said, I really do believe that like the Premier League is the gold standard for, attacking talent right now. And, as much as, KALIDOU KOULIBALY has excelled at snuffing out some of the better world talent in, one-off competitions like Champions League against Mbappe, and then also against Salah in the Champions League. The true test is whether or not he can do it over the course of an entire season, where you're getting attackers coming at you every game that have a completely different skill set but are very effective at what they do. So he needs to show us that he can still play at that extremely high level. I know that he's very good at it, and some of the clips that you'll see online on YouTube and whatnot will show you that he's very adept at just reading the game and putting a foot in and winning the ball. But the hard data is showing that he's not necessarily doing that at a high enough rate. For me, I'm excited about the signing. I think that he's going to be a guy that will add so much to this defense. So if we're looking at this defense now, even if it's a back four or back five right now, it's formidable. Teams are going to have to really take into account that Chelsea have KALIDOU KOULIBALY, Silva, Reece James, Chilwell, and then whoever that fifth center back is, whether it be Kimpembe, Aki, Trevor Chalobah. Like, that's a formidable defense, and not something that you encounter in world football on a day-to-day basis. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Fellas, what a day, what a week it's been. We've announced Raheem Sterling, he's joining our attack. We've been linked with Ronaldo. We've been linked with Lewandowski. We're just on the brink of signing KALIDOU KOULIBALY, and man, am I excited. This Boli guy means business, man, I'll tell you what. And if we get any of the signings, and any more of the signings that we've been linked to, because obviously we've taken a few L's with Barcelona throwing a spanner in the works every now and then, but like, to be honest with you, I'm not disappointed with the ones that we've had gotten over the line, and I'm not disappointed with the ones that we lost either. The numbers that we're hearing paid for Rafinha are way over what I thought he was valued at. The reason why I was interested in Rafinha is because I thought he'd low-key be a decent signing at a decent price. A guy that can give you, good minutes at a bargain price. But at £65 million, not exactly what I want to see, even though I do believe that he's a guy that can give you stuff forward. He works really hard, and that's, ideally what Tuchel wants in his attackers. But we move, and, some of the names that I'm hearing right now, whether or not they come to fruition is neither here nor there, but if we continue on the same sort of trajectory where we're signing players that are just of a high standard at a low fee, I think we're going to be fine. KALIDOU KOULIBALY, Sterling, we got the Slovenia kid coming in. Obviously he's going to go back on loan, but if we stay on that trajectory, get maybe somebody like Lewandowski, which would be fantastic. I know people are all up and wanting Gnabry. I don't know if that's going to happen, but as long as we continue on that sort of trajectory, linking ourselves with top talent for low prices, I'm going to be fine. But fellas, until the next one, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high, and up the Chels. Peace.